What's going on, guys, and welcome back to my channel. Hope you amazing, beautiful people are doing alright today. I actually wanted to start this week's review with an apology. For those of you who actively follow my reviews, you may have noticed that I completely missed uploading 2 weeks ago. That was completely my bad and lack of proper planning on my part. See, I was having pretty bad technical issues with the editing program I use, and I couldn't find a single workaround, so there really wasn't much I could do. Since then, I've upgraded to a better editing program which made this video possible. And if you didn't notice, well then thank God, because I honestly can't understand why you would want to spend your Friday night listening to me drone on about a movie for 10 minutes. So Sunday night, I got back from watching The Nun, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't look in my rearview mirror even once on the drive back to my apartment because I was way too scared to see what might be staring back at me. Was it the scariest movie I've ever seen? Definitely not. But I still had a pretty hard time falling asleep that night, and even though I'd like to say it was because I ate an entire pizza by myself before bed, that would make me a liar, and I only know how to be a truther. The Nun, a horror movie spin-off from the universe created by the Conjuring movies, follows a Catholic priest and a nun who has not yet taken her vows as they investigate the mystery behind a recent suicide at an abbey in Romania. Now, once in Romania, the two of them are joined by Frenchie, this young, strapping farmer who had found the nun's lifeless body hanging from a noose. Frenchie then reluctantly decides to lead the pair to the abbey, and once they arrive, well, that's when everything starts going wrong. Now, while I'm sure I already said this in my Slenderman review, I feel the need to repeat it here. I've never been too big on supernatural horror movies, and that's mainly because I've never really been scared to the core by these kinds of movies. They all kind of do the same thing, so they've quickly become very predictable. But something about the setting of this movie really made me want to see it, and I haven't even seen the other movies in the Conjuring universe. It's kind of a weird thing with me, but I love horror movies that have stories that take place in the past. Since the horror genre is almost always about survival, it's interesting to see how people in the past deal with monsters or zombies or ghosts or any other type of scary antagonist. Also, the color palette is almost always darker and gloomier than stories that take place in our own time. So that's why, at least for me, the plot was definitely a plus. Was it 100% original? Not quite. The whole time I was watching, there was this small part of me that felt like I had definitely seen this kind of plot used in other horror movies, but it was just a small part. Otherwise, I really like the irony of a demonic presence terrorizing a place of religious worship. It really made the evil feel a lot more, well, evil. Also, even though the priest's backstory didn't really feel necessary at first, it had a very significant role later on in the movie, so that was a nice little surprise for me. But there isn't much else I can say about the plot without completely spoiling it, so for now, let's move on to the scare factor. Now, I'm just gonna come right out and say it. I think the jump scares made this movie all kinds of scary. Wait, what? Is David insane? Did he just say he liked the jump scares in this movie? Really? Yeah, I did. And I do not feel ashamed for admitting it. Look man, I know the jump scare is the oldest, most overused horror trick in the book, and I can say with absolute certainty that I've seen movies where it definitely didn't work, but for some reason it just worked here. Were most of them predictable? Oh hell yeah. But what made them good, at least for me, wasn't the jump scare itself, but rather the build up to the jump scare. For me, there's nothing as enjoyable as watching the helpless protagonists of a horror film chase down apparitions that keep falling out of their field of vision. Wait, sorry, that sounded a bit too technical even for me. I mean apparitions that keep disappearing or running away from them, very obviously leading them into some kind of trap where the jump scare usually happens. Also, I couldn't help but notice that none of the build-ups took the same amount of time, so that took away from the jump scare predictability at least a little bit. But if you're still not convinced and think I'm dead wrong and out of my mind for liking the jump scares, I definitely invite you to call me out on it in the comments below. At the end of the day, I am just one dude, so this is just one dude's opinion. Try not to get too worked up about it. And once again, even though I've been doing nothing but praising this movie for the last few minutes, I know it wasn't perfect. I know there's a damn good reason why it's getting ripped by critics all over the internet. For me personally, one of this movie's biggest letdowns was how many times the demon showed up on screen. It got pretty annoying after a while, and the more it showed up, the more you could see how terrible the CGI was, especially for its face. I preferred all the ways it was psychologically torturing its victims, because somehow it was even messing with my head too, and I think the movie would have been a lot better if it just kept following this progression of slowly plunging the audience into insanity. The other thing that kind of left a bitter taste in my mouth was the really poor placement of comedic relief. This is a movie about death and demonic possession. There really wasn't a need for Frenchie's cheesy one-liners in the face of pure evil. And sure, it got a little chuckle out of me, but it was more of an awkward chuckle than anything else. Now, there was one thing that really stuck with me after watching this movie, and that was the climax. And to talk about that, we're now going to cross over into spoiler territory. And this is the place where my weird analytical side takes over my body and starts doing all the talking. Get it? Because it's a movie about demonic possession. Anyway, Without a doubt, the climax of this film takes place when Sister Irene is frantically praying in the chapel along with the nuns who live in the abbey. While they're praying, the demon storms in through the chapel doors and starts slicing a pentagram into Irene's back. And just when the whole situation starts spiraling out of control, Father Burke and Frenchie show up just in time at the doors and Irene lets them in. But when she turns back towards the front of the chapel, all the nuns are gone. And the only thing left is a corpse that's revealed to be one of the nuns who lived at the abbey a while ago. But it's been decaying for a long time now. So to put it simply, every nun who ever lived at that abbey was killed by the demon, even though we were led to believe that many of them were still alive and well and just living in fear of the demon. I know this scene shouldn't have messed me up as much as it did, but it still really messed me up. It left me wondering if everything Irene had seen after entering the convent was just a series of visions, or if this was the demon's way of messing with her head. I still don't know, man, but I do like it when movies mess with me like this. Anyway, all that being said, I'm gonna give The Nun a rating of 6 out of 10. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Your continued support really does mean the world to me, and I love making these reviews for you guys. Obviously, I know I didn't cover everything about this movie, so I'd love to hear your own thoughts on it in the comments below. If you liked what I had to say about this movie, and you're interested in seeing more reviews like this one, be sure to smash the heck out of those like and subscribe buttons on your way out. I'll be sure to see you all in the next one. Keep it real, guys.